My name is Shelby, and at 67 years old, I never expected to be given a dress code for my own daughter Amanda's second wedding. But there I was being told not to dress up too much because it would embarrass them. Little did Amanda know that my date would be a man in uniform with a shared history involving her controlling ex-husband Kevin. When he saw us at the reception, his face went white as paper. Some family secrets are worth dressing up for. Before I tell you this story, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. If this sounds like family drama, you can relate to hit that like button and subscribe to hear more stories about standing your ground. Life has a way of teaching you lessons when you least expect them. For me, those lessons came later in life after I had already experienced both the greatest joys and deepest sorrows. I've been a widow for 12 years now, after spending 35 wonderful years married to my Robert. We built a life together in our small coastal Maine town, where I taught elementary school for over 3 decades before retiring 7 years ago. Our home on Maple Street has seen birthday parties, holiday gatherings, and quiet Sunday mornings with coffee and crossword puzzles. But in recent years, it's been quieter than I would like. My relationship with my daughter Amanda has always been complicated. Even as a child, she was particular about everything. Her clothes had to be just so her room arranged precisely how she wanted it. As a teenager, she became increasingly concerned with appearances, always worried about what others thought. I tried to teach her that character matters more than designer labels, but somewhere along the way my messages didn't stick. Amanda is 42 now with a life that looks perfect on the outside. Her social media pages show a woman who has it all figured out. But I know better. I've seen the struggles behind the flawless photos. Her first marriage to Kevin seemed promising at first. He was handsome, successful, and charming when they met at a friend's party 15 years ago. I remember their wedding day, how hopeful everything seemed. But within months of their marriage, things began to change. Kevin had a way of isolating Amanda from the family. It started subtly with excuses about why they couldn't make it to Sunday dinners. Then came the comments, always, when he thought I couldn't hear about how my fashion sense was stuck in the past or how my opinions were old-fashioned. By their second anniversary, Amanda was calling less and less. When she did call, Kevin was always nearby listening. I could hear it in the careful way she chose her words. When they had their children, my beautiful grandchildren, Lily and Jake, I thought things might improve. Surely Kevin wouldn't keep the children from their grandmother. I was wrong. My time with Lily and Jake became carefully monitored visits that happened less frequently as the years passed. Lily is 14 now, growing into a thoughtful young woman with her grandfather's kind eyes. Jake is 11 with a passion for astronomy and baseball. But I've missed so much of their lives because Kevin convinced Amanda that my influence wasn't what they wanted for their children. When Amanda and Kevin finally divorced 3 years ago, I thought there might be a chance to rebuild our relationship. I reached out, offered to help in any way I could. Amanda was cold, distant. The damage had been done over years of Kevin's manipulation. Even without him in the house, his influence remained like a ghost between us. Then came Tyler, Amanda's new fiancé. A real estate developer with connections to all the right people in Portland. When Amanda introduced him at a rare lunch meeting last year, I could see she was smitten. But I also saw how she looked to him before answering any of my questions, checking for his approval. It reminded me too much of how she had been with Kevin. Tyler wore expensive suits and talked about his vacation home in the Hamptons. He had opinions about everything and everyone. When I mentioned my volunteer work at the local library, he called it quaint in a tone that made it clear he thought it was beneath notice. Amanda laughed nervously and quickly changed the subject to the charity gala they would be attending that weekend. In the months that followed, my attempts to connect with Amanda continued to hit walls. I sent birthday cards to the grandchildren with notes about how I'd love to see them. I texted Amanda with gentle invitations for coffee. Most went unanswered. When she did respond, it was brief and non-committal. The loneliness after Robert died had been crushing at first. For months I would wake up and reach for him, only to find his side of the bed empty. I would catch myself saving stories to tell him later, only to remember there would be no later for us. But I had found ways to build a new life. I joined a book club at the library. I volunteered teaching art to children after school. I tended my garden and made friends with the young couple who moved in next door. And then, there was William. I met him at the community center's ballroom dancing class 6 months ago. At 70 with a straight back and clear blue eyes that crinkled when he smiled, William caught my attention immediately. He had lost his wife to cancer 5 years earlier and had joined the dance class on his daughter's insistence. "I have 2 left feet," he told me the first time we were paired together, "but my Emma says I need to get out more." His 2 left feet stepped on my toes twice that first lesson, but by the 3rd class we were moving in perfect rhythm. William had served as a Navy captain before retiring 15 years ago. He had stories about ports around the world and adventures I could only imagine. More importantly, he listened when I talked about Robert, about Amanda, about my concerns for my grandchildren. He never rushed me or dismissed my feelings. William became a friend when I needed one most, and over months of coffee after dance class and walks along the shore, that friendship blossomed into something more. At our age, romance isn't about grand gestures or dramatic declarations. It's about finding someone who makes the ordinary days better, who sees your worth when others have forgotten to look. The wedding invitation arrived on a Tuesday in April, a thick cream envelope with elaborate calligraphy. I nearly dropped my morning coffee when I saw it was addressed to me. After months of minimal contact, Amanda was inviting me to her wedding to Tyler. The invitation itself was typical. Amanda elegant and expensive-looking. The ceremony would be held at Ocean View Manor, one of the most exclusive venues on the coast. Black tie optional. RSVP required. I called Amanda that evening, my heart racing with hope that this invitation meant a new beginning for us. "Mom," she answered on the 4th ring, her voice already holding that note of impatience I had become so familiar with. "I was just about to call you about the invitation." "It's beautiful, Amanda," I said. "I'm so happy you want me to be there." "Well, it's my wedding," she said as if that explained everything. Then came the sigh, the one that always preceded conditions. "There are some things we need to discuss before the big day." I settled into my armchair, preparing myself for whatever was coming. "Of course, dear, whatever you need." "We're keeping things very elegant and cohesive," she said. "Tyler's family is quite traditional, and there will be some important business associates there. Everything needs to be perfect." "I understand," I said, though I wasn't sure I did. What did this have to do with me? "About your outfit," Amanda continued, her voice taking on that artificial brightness she used when saying something she knew might offend. "I think it would be best if you kept things simple. Nothing too flashy or attention-grabbing." I blinked, looking down at my perfectly normal floral blouse and slacks. "I wasn't planning on coming in a sequined gown, Amanda." "You know what I mean, Mom. The artificial brightness disappeared. The thing is, Tyler's mother will be wearing a custom Vera Wang. Most of the guests are they have a certain aesthetic. I don't want you to feel out of place." What she meant, though she wouldn't say it directly, was that she didn't want me to embarrass her. My fashion choices, my entire existence apparently threatened her carefully curated image. "I was thinking," she continued, "maybe that beige dress you wore to Cousin Sarah's wedding, that was nice and appropriate." The beige dress she referred to was a shapeless, forgettable thing I'd bought in a rush 4 years ago, when my usual dress had a tear I discovered the morning of the wedding. I had never liked it, and had actually donated it to the church thrift shop last year. "That dress is gone," I said. "But don't worry, I'll find something suitable." "Nothing too bright," Amanda added quickly. "Maybe navy or gray. And Mom, about your hair, that style you've been wearing lately is a bit youthful. Perhaps something more conservative." The youthful style was simply my natural silver hair, grown out from the shortcut I'd maintained for years now, falling in soft waves to my shoulders. William had commented just last week how much he liked it. "And Mom, about bringing a guest," Amanda continued, before I could respond about my hair. "I've already finalized the seating arrangements, and it's really a very intimate affair." "The invitation said +1, I reminded her. "Did it?" She sounded genuinely surprised, as if she hadn't approved every detail of her own wedding stationery. "Well, that was a mistake. Who would you even bring?" The dismissive way she asked, made something shift inside me, as if I couldn't possibly have anyone in my life worth bringing to her perfect wedding. Actually, I've been seeing someone, I said, my voice steadier than I expected. His name is William Thompson. He's a retired Navy captain. Silence on the line for several seconds. You're dating someone. Since when? For a few months now. He's wonderful. I'd like you to meet him. Another pause. Mom, I really don't think the wedding is the right time to introduce some man you've been dating for a few months. It's an important day for Tyler and me. He's not some man, Amanda. He's important to me. The conversation deteriorated from there. By the time we hung up, it was clear that while Amanda would tolerate my presence at her wedding, it was conditional on me being as invisible as possible. Don't dress up too much. Don't style my hair in a way she deemed inappropriate. Don't bring my partner. Don't do anything that might draw attention away from her perfect day. I sat in my living room for a long time after that call, phone clutched in my hand, tears threatening. This was my daughter, my only child. How had we reached a point where she was ashamed of me? When William called later that evening for our usual goodnight chat, I tried to keep the hurt from my voice. But William had a way of hearing what I didn't say. Shelby, what's wrong, darling? And just like that, the dam broke. I told him about the invitation, about Amanda's suggestions, about feeling like an embarrassment to my own daughter. She doesn't want me to bring you. I finished, wiping tears. She doesn't even want to meet you. William was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was gentle but firm. Shelby, you are a beautiful, intelligent, vibrant woman. Any room you walk into is better for your presence. If Amanda can't see that, it's her loss. But she's my daughter, I whispered. I just want us to be close again. I know, darling, but you can't make that happen by diminishing yourself. Amanda needs to accept you as you are, not some watered-down version that fits her idea of what a mother should be. We talked for over an hour. William's steady voice gradually restoring my sense of self. By the end of the call, I had made a decision. I would attend Amanda's wedding, but I wouldn't pretend to be someone I wasn't, and despite her objections, I would bring William. It was time Amanda saw that my life hadn't stopped when her father died, that I was still capable of joy and love. That night, as I got ready for bed, I looked at my reflection in the mirror. Silver hair, laugh lines around my eyes, a face that had weathered storms and still found reasons to smile. I wasn't an embarrassment. I was a woman who had loved deeply, lost, profoundly, and found the courage to begin again. The weeks leading up to the wedding were a strange mix of anticipation and dread. I decided to take William's advice and be true to myself, while still respecting the formal nature of the event. I made an appointment at Elaine's boutique in town, where I had bought my clothes for special occasions for years. Elaine herself helped me, her measuring tape draped around her neck as she pulled dresses she thought would suit me. So Amanda is getting married again, she said, as I tried on the third option, a navy sheath that fit well but felt too much like the invisible beige dress Amanda had suggested. To that developer fellow from Portland. Tyler Reynolds, I confirmed. They've been together about a year. Elaine made a non-committal sound as she zipped up the back of the dress. And what does the mother of the bride want to wear to this fancy affair? I caught her eye in the mirror. Something that makes me feel like myself. Not too flashy, but not invisible either. Elaine smiled, a conspiratorial gleam in her eye. I have just the thing. The dress she brought out next was perfect. A deep teal silk that complemented my coloring cut in a classic A-line style that flattered without being too revealing. The neckline was modest, the sleeves 3/4 length, but there was a subtle shimmer to the fabric that caught the light when I moved. Amanda said nothing too bright. I hesitated. This isn't bright, honey. It's rich. There's a difference, and it brings out those beautiful eyes of yours. When I showed William the dress later that week, his smile told me all I needed to know. You'll be the most elegant woman there, he said. Second only to the bride, of course. It was then that William mentioned his dress uniform. As a retired Navy captain, he still had his formal whites complete with gold braiding and his many service medals. He offered to wear them to the wedding. It's completely appropriate for formal occasions, he said. And there's nothing Amanda could object to about a decorated naval officer as your date. The image of walking into Amanda's wedding with William in his full military regalia made me smile for the first time since receiving the invitation. It was perfect. Dignified, appropriate, and impossible to dismiss as embarrassing. The morning after buying the dress, my phone pinged with a text from Amanda. Just checking that you found something appropriate to wear. Nothing too young or flashy, right? I took a deep breath before responding. I found a lovely dress at Elaine's, very appropriate for the mother of the bride. 3 dots appeared, immediately disappeared, then appeared again. What color? Teal. A longer pause this time. That's pretty bright, Mom. I told you navy or gray would be better. I put the phone down without responding. 5 minutes later, it pinged again. Also, the hairstylist I'm using for the bridal party could fit you in that morning. I booked you a slot. She'll do something elegant and age-appropriate. The assumption that I couldn't manage my own hair for the wedding was the final straw. No thank you, I texted back. I've already arranged my hair. In reality, I had an appointment at Marian's salon where I'd been going for 20 years. Marian knew exactly how to style my silver waves in a way that was both elegant and true to who I was. Amanda's texts continued over the following days, each one containing some new instruction or limitation. The cake would be almond with buttercream in case I wanted to mention it to anyone. The ceremony would be non-denominational, so please don't bring up religion with Tyler's family. The rehearsal dinner was for immediate family, and the wedding party only, so I shouldn't expect an invitation to that. Meanwhile, I reconnected with family members who would be attending the wedding. My younger sister Beth called from Arizona after getting her invitation. Are you really going? She asked, surprise evident in her voice. After how Amanda has treated you these past few years. She's still my daughter, I said simply, and I'm holding out hope that someday we can repair our relationship. Just don't let her walk all over you, Shelby. You deserve better than that. A few days later, I received an unexpected call from Jane Roberts' sister-in-law, who had always stayed in touch despite the family complications. I thought you should know, she said, after we'd caught up on family news. Kevin is going to be at the wedding. My heart dropped. Amanda's ex-husband. Why would she invite him? Apparently he and Tyler are business partners now. They're developing some big resort property up the coast. Tyler insisted on inviting him, and Amanda went along with it. The news that Kevin would be at the wedding sent me into a tailspin of anxiety. This man who had systematically turned my daughter against me, who had limited my access to my grandchildren, who had made snide comments about me for years, would be there watching as Amanda married someone new. Are you still planning to bring William? Jane asked. Yes, I said, though, with less certainty than before. Do you think that's a mistake? I think Amanda needs to see that you've built a life that doesn't revolve around her approval, Jane said firmly. And I'd like to meet this William who's put the spark back in your voice. The week before the wedding, William came over for dinner, and I shared my growing anxiety about seeing Kevin again. What if he says something to Amanda that makes things worse between us? What if he still has that same influence over her? William took my hand across the table. Shelby, you can't control what Kevin might say or do, but you can control how you respond. You'll be dignified and gracious as you always are, and I'll be right beside you the entire time. His confidence in me helped restore my own. We spent the evening planning our approach to the wedding, William helping me develop strategies for difficult conversations that might arise. By the time he left with a tender kiss at the door, I felt more prepared than I had in weeks. The night before the wedding, I laid out everything I would need. The teal dress hung on the closet door, shoes, and jewelry arranged on my dresser, small evening bag packed with essentials. I called William one last time before bed. Are you ready for tomorrow? He asked. As ready as I'll ever be, I said honestly. Thank you for doing this with me. There's nowhere I'd rather be than by your side, Shelby, he said. Get some rest. Tomorrow we'll show Amanda and everyone else what real dignity looks like. I slept surprisingly well that night, more at peace with my decisions than I had been since the invitation arrived. Whatever happened tomorrow, I would face it as my authentic self with a good man by my side. The morning of Amanda's wedding dawned bright and clear, a perfect June day, with just enough breeze to rustle the leaves outside my bedroom window. I took my time getting ready, each step deliberate and mindful. Shower light makeup hair, styled in soft waves, just as Marion and I had planned. I slipped on the teal dress, fastened my mother's pearl earrings, and stepped into the silver heels I'd chosen to complement the outfit. The woman in the mirror looked elegant, poised, and yes, beautiful. Not trying to look younger than her 67 years, but not fading into the background either. I was satisfied with what I saw, and that mattered more than Amanda's approval ever could. William arrived at 11:30, exactly as promised. When I opened the door, my breath caught in my throat. He stood there in his full navy dress whites, the gold braiding on the shoulders gleaming in the sunlight, service medals arranged precisely on his chest. His white hair was immaculately groomed, his posture military straight, despite his 70 years. "William," I breathed, "you look magnificent." His eyes crinkled as he smiled, taking in my appearance with obvious appreciation. "And you, my dear, are absolutely stunning." He offered his arm, and I took it feeling a surge of confidence as we walked to his car. We were quite a pair, and for the first time since receiving the invitation, I was genuinely looking forward to attending the wedding. The Ocean View Manor lived up to its name, a sprawling estate overlooking the Atlantic with manicured gardens and a grand ballroom where the reception would be held. As William and I approached the entrance, I could see guests in formal attire being directed to the garden terrace where the ceremony would take place. Several heads turned as we walked up the path. I recognized faces from Amanda's circle of friends, people I had met briefly over the years. Their expressions ranged from surprise to admiration, and I heard whispers as we passed. "Is that Amanda's mother? Who's the military gentleman? They look amazing." The usher at the garden entrance, a young man in a crisp tuxedo, checked our names on the guest list. His eyebrows rose slightly when he saw William's name had been added as my +1, but he simply smiled and directed us to the seating. "Family of the bride," he confirmed. "I'm the mother of the bride," I said, my voice steady and proud. We were shown to seats on the bride's side, though not in the front row where immediate family would normally sit. The slight was obvious, but expected. I held my head high as William escorted me to our assigned seats, his presence beside me worth more than any place of honor Amanda might have denied me. As we settled in, I caught sight of Tyler's parents across the aisle. His mother, a thin woman with an expensive blonde bob, wore a pale pink designer dress that probably cost more than my monthly pension. She was surveying the gathering guests with the critical eye of someone taking inventory. When her gaze landed on William and me, I saw her lean over to whisper something to her husband. Then, from the corner of my eye, I spotted Amanda. She was standing just inside the manor, partially visible through the French doors, surrounded by what must be her bridesmaids. Even from a distance, I could see she was beautiful in her wedding gown, a vision in white lace. My heart ached with love for her despite everything. Amanda's gaze swept over the assembling guests and stopped abruptly when she saw me. Even from a distance, I could see her expression freeze. She said something quick to her maid of honor and disappeared deeper into the building. Moments later, my phone vibrated in my small evening bag. A text from Amanda. "You brought someone after all. And what are you wearing?" I tucked the phone away without responding. This was her wedding day, and I wouldn't engage in any drama that might detract from that. William sensed my tension and placed his hand reassuringly over mine. "Deep breath, Shelby. Everything will be fine." The ceremony itself was beautiful, if impersonal. Amanda was radiant as she walked down the aisle on Tyler's father's arm, another slight that I felt, but didn't show. Tyler looked genuinely happy as he watched her approach, and for that at least I was grateful. The vows were brief, the officiant professional, and within 30 minutes, Amanda and Tyler were pronounced husband and wife. As guests moved toward the manor for the reception, William and I followed at a leisurely pace, his arm steady under my hand. "You're doing wonderfully," he murmured. "And may I say your daughter looked beautiful?" "She did," I agreed, blinking back unexpected tears. "I just wish." "I know," William said gently, "but today is just one day. There's still time for things to change. The ballroom was transformed with white flowers and crystal decorations, circular tables surrounding a wooden dance floor. Again, William and I were seated far from the main family table, placed instead with distant cousins and Tyler's colleagues. I recognized no one at our assigned table. As we made our way across the room, I finally saw him. Kevin. My former son-in-law stood near the bar, a drink already in hand, laughing with a group of men who had the same polished, expensive look as Tyler. He hadn't changed much in the 3 years since I'd last seen him. Perhaps a bit heavier, his dark hair showing traces of gray at the temples. Just then, Amanda approached us, her wedding gown rustling as she moved. Up close, she was even more beautiful, though her smile was tight as she greeted me. "Mom, you made it." Her eyes flicked to William, then back to me. "And you brought a friend." "Amanda, this is William Thompson," I said, standing tall beside him. "William, my daughter Amanda." William extended his hand with perfect courtesy. "A pleasure to meet you, Amanda. Your mother speaks of you often. Congratulations on your marriage." Amanda shook his hand briefly, her smile not reaching her eyes. "Thank you for coming. I'm sorry we couldn't seat you with the family, but the head table was strictly for immediate family and the wedding party." "Your seating arrangement is perfectly fine," I assured her, refusing to show how much the deliberate distance hurt. "The ceremony was lovely." Yes, well, Amanda's attention was already drifting to other guests. I should greet everyone. Enjoy the reception. As she turned to leave, I caught a glimpse of Tyler watching us from across the room. He made his way over expensive shoes, gleaming against the polished floor. "Mrs. Davis," he said, using my married name with a formality that created instant distance. "Thank you for coming." His eyes assessed William's uniform with a mixture of surprise and calculation. I could almost see him trying to determine William's rank and importance, wondering if this unexpected guest might be useful to his business connections. "Captain Thompson," I said, emphasizing the title. "This is my daughter's new husband, Tyler Reynolds." The two men shook hands, Tyler's expression morphing into something more respectful as he registered William's rank. "Captain, an honor to have you here. Navy." "Yes," William said simply. 30 years of service." "We appreciate your service," Tyler said automatically, the way people do when they don't know what else to say to military personnel. "Please enjoy yourselves. Open bar all evening." With that, he too moved on to more important guests, leaving William and me to find our table. As we crossed the room, I could feel Kevin's eyes on us. He hadn't approached yet, but it was only a matter of time. The reception was in full swing, a 4-piece band playing tasteful background music as servers circulated with champagne and hors d'oeuvres. William and I had introduced ourselves to the other guests, at our table mostly business associates of Tyler's, who seemed bemused to find themselves seated with the mother of the bride and her military escort. I had just taken a sip of champagne when I saw Kevin detach himself from his group and start making his way toward us. My grip tightened on the stem of my glass, and William, ever attentive, noticed immediately. "Is that him?" he asked quietly. "Yes, Kevin is heading this way." William covered my hand with his. "Remember what we discussed. Calm, dignified, and true to yourself." Kevin reached our table, drink in hand, his practiced smile firmly in place. "Shelby, what a surprise to see you here." The passive-aggressive implication that I might not be welcome at my own daughter's wedding was pure Kevin, a verbal dagger wrapped in false politeness. "Hello, Kevin," I said evenly. "It's been a while." 3 years at least, he agreed, pulling out an empty chair and sitting down uninvited. "You're looking well." His eyes moved to William, taking in the uniform, the medals, the ramrod, straight posture. "And who's your friend?" "William Thompson," I said, pride evident in my voice, despite my attempt at neutrality. "William, this is Kevin Mitchell, Amanda's first husband." William extended his hand, his expression unreadable. "Mr. Mitchell." Kevin shook hands briefly, his attention already back on me. "I saw Lily and Jake earlier. They've grown so much since you last saw them." Another verbal dagger reminding me of the time I'd been kept from my grandchildren. I refused to let him see how much it hurt. "Children do grow quickly," I said. "I'd love to speak with them later." Kevin leaned back in his chair, swirling his scotch. Jake's really into baseball now, made the travel team this spring, and Lily's taking advanced placement classes. Gets her brains from her father's side. William's hand found mine under the table, a silent reminder to stay calm. Actually, I said Lily reminds me very much of my mother. She had that same quick mind, that same curiosity about everything. Kevin's smile tightened almost imperceptibly. Well, nature versus nurture, right? Speaking of which, I hear you're still living in that old house in town. Must be hard to maintain at your age. Before I could respond, William straightened in his chair, his eyes fixed intently on Kevin's face. Excuse me, he said, his voice carrying the natural authority of someone used to command. But have we met before, Mr. Mitchell? You seem familiar. Kevin turned to William, really looking at him for the first time. I saw the moment of confusion, followed by dawning recognition, then something that looked very much like fear. Captain Thompson, Kevin's voice had lost its confident edge. I don't. That is, it's been many years. William's expression remained calm, but his eyes had turned to steel. 20 years, I believe. You served under my command on the USS Resolute. The color drained from Kevin's face as he realized who he was sitting across from. Sir, I didn't recognize you. Clearly, William said. Though I remembered you immediately, Petty Officer Mitchell. Not many sailors in my career left such a distinct impression. Kevin glanced around nervously, as if looking for escape. It was a long time ago. Yes, William agreed. 20 years since I had to report you for conduct unbecoming leading to your dishonorable discharge, not the sort of thing a commanding officer forgets easily. I stared between the two men, stunned by this revelation. Kevin, the man who had caused so much pain in my family, had served under William and been dishonorably discharged. Kevin's face had gone from pale to flushed with anger or embarrassment, I couldn't tell which. That was a misunderstanding. Was it William's voice remained steady? Falsifying reports, stealing supplies intended for humanitarian relief, threatening junior officers who questioned your actions? Which part was misunderstood? Kevin stood abruptly, nearly knocking over his chair. You have no right to bring this up here at my daughter's wedding. Ex-daughter, I corrected quietly. And you invited yourself to our table, Kevin. William remained seated, utterly composed, in contrast to Kevin's growing agitation. I'm simply answering your question about whether we've met before. We have under circumstances that reflect directly on your character. Or lack thereof. You don't know what you're talking about, Kevin hissed, lowering his voice as he noticed people at nearby tables beginning to watch our interaction. That was all trumped-up charges because I wouldn't play by your outdated rules. The military justice system disagreed, William said, as did the 3 witnesses who testified to your misconduct. I realized with growing amazement that William had known exactly who Kevin was from the moment I first mentioned his name months ago. He had served with my former son-in-law and had direct knowledge of the character flaws that had later manifested in his treatment of Amanda and me. Kevin leaned down, his composure completely gone now. You keep your mouth shut about this. Tyler doesn't know about my discharge, and he doesn't need to know. Business partners should have no secrets between them, William observed mildly, especially when those secrets involve issues of integrity and ethics. Is everything okay over here? Amanda had appeared beside our table, her expression concerned as she took in the tableau. Kevin straightened immediately, attempting to recover his composure. Just catching up with your mother and meeting her. Friend Kevin said, his voice strained. Amanda looked between us, clearly sensing the tension. Kevin, Tyler was looking for you. Something about the Reynolds account. I'll find him now, Kevin said, relief evident in his voice at the excuse to escape. He shot William a warning look before walking away. Amanda lingered, her eyes questioning. Mom, what was that about? I hesitated, unsure how much to share at her wedding reception. William saved me from deciding. Your former husband and I have history, he said simply. I was his commanding officer in the Navy. Amanda's eyes widened. Kevin was in the Navy. He told me he worked in private security before starting his real estate career. He was, William confirmed. Though his service ended under circumstances he likely wouldn't want discussed at your wedding. Amanda's gaze sharpened. What circumstances? Just then, Tyler appeared at Amanda's side, his arm sliding possessively around her waist. "There you are. Is everything all right?" "Fine," Amanda said automatically, though her eyes told a different story. "Tyler, did you know Kevin was in the Navy?" Tyler looked confused by the question. Security consultant, then real estate. That's what his resume said when we became partners. "Why?" William reached inside his uniform jacket and removed a small leather portfolio. "I make it a practice to be prepared," he said, opening it and extracting a folded document. "This is a matter of public record, though not easily accessible, without knowing where to look." He handed the paper to Amanda, whose hands trembled slightly as she unfolded it. Tyler read over her shoulder, his expression changing from confusion to shock. "Dishonorable discharge." Tyler's voice rose slightly. "For theft, falsifying official documents, and conduct unbecoming." Amanda's face had gone pale as she stared at the document. "He told me he left his previous career to pursue better opportunities. He never mentioned the Navy at all. People with dishonorable discharges often omit military service from their history," William explained gently. "It closes many doors, particularly in fields requiring trust and integrity." "Like real estate development," Tyler said, his jaw tightening, "where I've trusted him with millions in investor funds." Kevin chose that moment to return, stopping short when he saw the document in Amanda's hands. His eyes darted to William, then to me, fury and fear warring on his face. "What lies have you been telling?" he demanded. "No lies," William said. "Only documented facts that your business partner and former wife deserve to know." More guests were watching now, the drama unfolding at our table proving more interesting than the band or the canapes. Kevin seemed to realize he was creating a scene at exactly the wrong moment. "We should discuss this privately," he said to Tyler, trying to regain control of the situation. "I can explain everything." Tyler's expression had hardened into something I hadn't seen before. Perhaps there was more substance to my new son-in-law than I had given him credit for. "Yes," Tyler agreed coldly. "We certainly will discuss it. Privately, and with our company attorneys present." Amanda was still staring at the document, something shifting in her expression as the implications sank in. She looked up at me then, at William, confusion, and the beginning of understanding in her eyes. "He always said you were trying to control me," she said quietly. "That you couldn't let me live my own life, make my own choices." "I only ever wanted you to be happy," I said, my voice catching. "And safe." Amanda handed the document back to William, her wedding gown rustling as she straightened. "We should get back to our guests. It's time for the first dance." She walked away, her back straight, Tyler, following after a last hard look at Kevin. Kevin himself stood frozen for a moment, then turned on his heel and strode toward the exit, pushing past a server who nearly dropped his tray of champagne flutes. William carefully returned the document to his portfolio and tucked it away inside his jacket. Then he took my hand and raised it to his lips in a gentle kiss. "I believe that's what they call in the Navy showing your true colors," he said softly. For the first time since arriving at the wedding, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. The truth was finally beginning to emerge, and with it perhaps a chance to heal the wounds that had kept Amanda and me apart for so long. The remainder of the reception continued with all the expected traditions. Amanda and Tyler had their first dance, cake was cut, and served toasts were made by the best man and maid of honor. To casual observers, nothing seemed amiss, but I could feel the undercurrents of tension rippling through the celebration. Kevin had disappeared after his confrontation with us, and Tyler was making a visible effort to maintain his composure while engaging with guests. Amanda moved through the crowd with practiced grace, but several times I caught her looking our way, her expression thoughtful and uncertain. William and I danced once, his military bearing, making him a surprisingly elegant partner, despite his earlier claims about 2 left feet. As he guided me around the floor, I could feel eyes on us, whispers following in our wake. "People are talking about what happened," I murmured. "Let them talk," William said, his hand warm and steady against my back. "The truth has a way of making itself known sooner or later." We had returned to our table and were enjoying coffee when one of the servers approached with a folded note, "Mrs. Davis, from the bride." I opened it with slightly trembling fingers. Amanda's precise handwriting filled the small card. "Mom, please wait for me in the library after the reception ends. We need to talk, eh?" William read the note over my shoulder and gave my hand an encouraging squeeze. A good sign, I think. "Or, she wants to tell me off for causing a scene at her wedding," I said, anxiety creeping back. "You didn't cause anything," William reminded me. "Kevin's past and his choices are what created this situation." The reception wound down slowly with younger guests dominating the dance floor as older ones began to depart. Tyler's parents stopped by our table briefly before leaving, his mother eyeing William's uniform with newfound respect. "Captain," she said, extending her hand. "My father served in the Navy during Korea. He would have appreciated your service." "Thank you, ma'am," William replied with a slight bow over her hand. "It was an honor to serve." As they walked away, I raised an eyebrow at William. "You've charmed Tyler's mother. That's quite an achievement." "Military connections transcend social boundaries," he said with a wink. "And she was obviously reassessing you as well. Amazing what a decorated officer on your arm can do for your social standing." I laughed, grateful for his ability to lighten the moment. "Is that why I keep you around? For the social advancement?" "Among other reasons," I hope, he said, his eyes warm with affection. Shortly before midnight, the band played their final song and the remaining guests began to disperse. Amanda and Tyler were saying their goodbyes near the entrance, accepting congratulations and well wishes. They weren't leaving for their honeymoon until the following afternoon, so there was no grand exit planned. William and I lingered waiting until most guests had departed before making our way to the library as requested. The Manor's library was a handsome room lined with leather-bound books that probably hadn't been read in decades. Comfortable leather chairs arranged around a cold fireplace. William insisted on waiting outside. "This conversation should be between mother and daughter," he said. "I'll be right here if you need me." I kissed his cheek, drawing strength from his steady presence, then entered the library alone. It was empty, so I chose a chair facing the door and waited, my heart beating too fast in my chest. 15 minutes passed before Amanda appeared, still in her wedding gown, though she'd removed her veil. She looked tired, but somehow younger, without the perfect mask of composure she'd worn all day. She closed the door behind her and stood for a moment uncertain. "Thank you for waiting," she said, finally moving to sit in the chair opposite mine. "It's been quite an evening." "It has," I agreed. "You were a beautiful bride, Amanda." A flash of genuine smile crossed her face. "Thank you." Then the smile faded. "Kevin's gone. He left right after what happened at your table." "I'm sorry if it caused problems for your wedding," I said, meaning it. "That wasn't my intention." Amanda was quiet for a long moment, her fingers tracing the delicate beading on her gown. "Did you know about Kevin's military record?" "No," I said honestly. William never mentioned knowing Kevin until today. I had no idea they had history. "Tyler is furious," Amanda said. "Not just about the discharge, but about Kevin hiding it all these years. They've been partners for almost 2 years now." "I can imagine that would be upsetting," I said carefully. "Kevin told me so many things about you," Amanda continued, her voice growing unsteady. "How you were trying to control me, how you disapproved of him, how you were jealous of our relationship. He said you were manipulative, and that distancing ourselves was the only way to have a healthy marriage." The pain of those years washed over me again, but I kept my voice calm. "And you believed him?" "He was very convincing," Amanda said, a tear slipping down her cheek. "And then after we had Lily and later Jake, he said you were trying to undermine his parenting, that your values were outdated and harmful." "I only ever wanted to be part of your lives," I said softly. "To love my grandchildren and support you however you needed." Amanda wiped away the tear, careful not to smudge her makeup. "The things Captain Thompson said about Kevin, about his character, they match things I discovered during our divorce. Money missing from our accounts, lies about his work, even an affair he tried to hide." My heart ached for what my daughter had endured. "I'm so sorry, Amanda. I had no idea the marriage had become that bad." "I was too ashamed to tell you," she admitted. After pushing you away for so long, how could I admit that you might have been right about him all along? Oh, sweetheart, I said, the endearment slipping out naturally. I would never have judged you for that. I know that now, she said. Or I'm starting to remember it. She looked up, meeting my eyes directly. Mom, I don't expect you to forgive me right away for how I've treated you these past years. But I'd like a chance to try and make things right between us. Hope bloomed in my chest, fragile but real. I'd like that too, very much. Amanda nodded, another tear escaping. I should get back to Tyler. We have an early breakfast with his family tomorrow before everyone leaves. Of course, I said, rising from my chair. It's been a long day for you. We stood facing each other, years of hurt and misunderstanding between us, but also the first fragile bridge beginning to form. Your dress is beautiful, Amanda said suddenly. The color suits you perfectly. Thank you, I said, surprised by the compliment. Elaine helped me find it. And Captain Thompson? Amanda hesitated. He seems like a good man. He is, I said simply. The best I've known since your father. Amanda nodded, accepting this. Maybe. Maybe you could both come for dinner sometime after Tyler and I get back from our honeymoon. Nothing formal, just to talk. We'd like that very much, I said, hope growing stronger. As we walked toward the door, Amanda surprised me by stopping and turning, then wrapping her arms around me in a brief but genuine hug. Thank you for coming today, Mom, even after everything. I held her for that precious moment, my grown daughter in her wedding dress, and whispered, I will always come when you need me. Always. When we emerged from the library, William stood from the bench where he'd been waiting, coming to attention, almost automatically at the sight of Amanda, in her bridal gown. She smiled at him, a real smile this time. Captain Thompson, thank you for coming to my wedding, and for bringing the truth with you. William bowed slightly. Truth is the foundation of any worthwhile relationship, Mrs. Reynolds. In the military and business, and especially in family. Amanda nodded, absorbing this. I'm beginning to see that. She touched my arm gently. Good night, Mom. I'll call you next week. We watched her walk away, her gown glimmering in the low light of the hallway. When she disappeared around the corner, William offered me his arm. Shall we go home, my dear? As we walked to the car under a sky full of stars, my phone chimed with a text message. I checked it once we were seated in William's car. Mom, I forgot to say this earlier. Your hair looks beautiful too. I'm sorry for trying to change it. I showed the message to William, who smiled and started the car. The first of many steps forward, I think. As we drove away from Ocean View Manor, I felt lighter than I had in years. The road to healing with Amanda would be long, and probably not without setbacks, but for the first time in years there was a road. Just as we turned onto the main highway, another text came through. This one made me gasp. Grandma, it's Lily. Mom said I could text you. Can Jake and I come visit you sometime? We miss you. 1 week after the wedding, Amanda texted asking if we could meet for coffee. I suggested the small cafe in town where I often went with my book club, neutral territory for both of us. As I waited at a corner table nursing a cappuccino, I watched the door with a mixture of hope and apprehension. Amanda arrived exactly on time, looking different in casual clothes, her hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. Without the perfect makeup and designer outfit she typically wore when we met, she looked younger, more vulnerable, and startlingly like she had as a teenager. Mom, she said, sliding into the chair across from me. Thanks for meeting me. Of course, I said. How was the honeymoon? Beautiful. The Amalfi Coast was everything they say it is. She ordered a latte from the server, then turned back to me. But that's not why I wanted to see you. I waited, giving her space to find her words. I've been doing a lot of thinking since the wedding, she began. About us, about the past few years. About all the things Kevin told me about you. She paused, turning her wedding ring around her finger, a nervous gesture I remembered from her childhood. Tyler and I had a long talk on the honeymoon. After what happened with Kevin at the wedding, Tyler hired someone to look deeper into Kevin's background. There's more, Mom. So much more than just the dishonorable discharge. What do you mean? I asked gently. Financial fraud. A previous marriage he never told me about. even a restraining order from an ex-girlfriend. Amanda's voice shook slightly. All these years I thought I was protecting our family by keeping distance from you, but I was actually under the influence of someone who had mastered manipulation. Tears welled in her eyes. Mom, the things I said to you over the years, the way I treated you, keeping the kids from you. I was so wrong and I'm so sorry. The apology so long awaited washed over me like a wave. I reached across the table and took her hand. Oh, Amanda. I don't expect you to forgive me right away, she said, echoing her words from the wedding night. But I need you to know how deeply I regret believing him over you, over everyone who tried to warn me. Manipulative people are experts at what they do, I said. They isolate their targets, make them doubt their own perceptions. It wasn't your fault. But I hurt you, Amanda insisted. I kept your grandchildren from you. I made you feel unwelcome in my life. That was my choice. Under extreme influence, I reminded her. Amanda, I've never stopped loving you, not for one single day. And I've never stopped hoping we would find our way back to each other. More tears fell, and Amanda didn't bother wiping them away. How can you still love me after everything? Because I'm your mother, I said simply. That's what mothers do. We talked for nearly 2 hours, our coffee growing cold, as Amanda shared the full story of her marriage to Kevin. The gradual isolation from friends and family, the subtle undermining of her confidence, the financial control that increased over time, the jealousy when she spent time with anyone else, even her children. Classic abuser tactics, I said when she finished. He followed the playbook exactly. I never thought of it as abuse, Amanda said, because he rarely yelled and never hit me. But it was abuse, wasn't it? Just more subtle. Emotional and psychological abuse is still abuse, I confirmed, and often harder to recognize because it doesn't leave visible bruises. Amanda nodded, processing this. Tyler wants to dissolve the business partnership. He's having the lawyers look into all their joint ventures. That seems wise, I agreed. And how are Lily and Jake doing with all this? Amanda's face softened at the mention of her children. They're actually doing okay. Jake is too young to understand most of it, but Lily. She told me last night that she never liked how her dad talked about you. She said she always remembered how you used to read to her and make cookies together. My heart swelled at the thought that my granddaughter had held on to those memories, despite Kevin's attempts to erase them. They really want to see you, Amanda continued. Would this weekend work? Maybe you could come for lunch on Saturday. I'd love that, I said, joy bubbling up inside me. Would it be all right if William joined us? He's looking forward to meeting his grandchildren. Amanda looked startled. His grandchildren. I felt my cheeks warm, a figure of speech. He's become quite important in my life. A small smile tugged at Amanda's lips. I can see that. Yes, bring him. I'd like to get to know him better too. As we prepared to leave, Amanda hesitated, then reached for her purse. I almost forgot. I brought something for you. She pulled out an envelope and handed it to me. Inside was a photograph I hadn't seen in years, slightly faded but still clear. Robert and I on the beach, a 4-year-old Amanda between us, all of us laughing at something now forgotten. I found this when I was packing for the move to Tyler's house, Amanda explained. Kevin had taken all our family photos and stored them in the attic after we got married. He said it was to make room for new memories, but now I realize he was erasing me. I finished softly, running my finger over the image of my late husband's smiling face. Yes, Amanda agreed. But I'm putting it all back now. All the photos, all the memories. Tyler is helping me. He wants our home to honor all our family history, not just the parts that fit some perfect image. As we walked out of the cafe together, Amanda surprised me with another hug. This one longer and less hesitant than at the wedding. Thank you for not giving up on me, Mom. Never, I promised. Not ever. The following Saturday, William and I arrived at Amanda and Tyler's new home, a beautiful colonial-style house in a leafy neighborhood. I carried a basket with freshly baked chocolate chip cookies, remembering how Lily had loved them as a small child. The door flew open before we could ring the bell, and there stood Lily, 14 years old, and on the cusp of womanhood, her eyes alight with excitement. Grandma, she cried, flinging herself into my arms with an enthusiasm that nearly made me drop the cookies. "I've missed you so much." Over her shoulder, I saw Jake hanging back shy and uncertain. At 11, he had fewer clear memories of me than his sister. But when I extended my arm to him, he came forward for a quick, awkward hug that meant the world to me. "You both have grown so much," I said, drinking in the sight of them. "Lily, you're almost as tall as I am now." "I'm going to be taller than Mom," she announced proudly. "The doctor said so at my last checkup." Amanda appeared behind them, smiling at the reunion. "Let Grandma and Captain Thompson come inside, kids. Don't keep them on the doorstep." The afternoon was like a dream, one I had imagined countless times during the years of separation. We had lunch on the patio, the conversation flowing more easily than I had dared to hope. Tyler proved to be a thoughtful host, genuinely interested in William's naval career and my teaching stories. After lunch, Lily dragged me to see her art projects, proudly displaying paintings that showed remarkable talent. Jake overcame his initial shyness to show William his collection of model airplanes, delighted when William could identify each military aircraft in detail. "Your Captain Thompson is wonderful with the kids," Amanda said, as we watched from the kitchen doorway while William helped Jake correct the wing position on a P-51 Mustang model. "He had 2 daughters of his own," I explained. "They're grown now with children of their own. He's a natural grandfather." "And more?" Amanda asked tentatively. I smiled, feeling no need to hide my feelings. "Yes, much more." As the afternoon waned, we gathered in the living room. Lily had convinced William to tell stories about his naval adventures, edited for young ears, but still exciting enough to keep Jake on the edge of his seat. "Did you ever fight pirates?" Jake wanted to know. William chuckled. "Not the kind with parrots and eye patches, but we did intercept some modern pirates off the coast of Somalia once." Cool Jake's eyes were wide with admiration. I caught Amanda watching the scene with a wistful expression. When our eyes met, she smiled, a silent acknowledgement passing between us. This was how it should have been all along, family together, sharing stories and creating memories. 6 months later, on Thanksgiving, we gathered again, this time at my house. The dining room table was extended to its full length to accommodate Amanda, Tyler, the children, William, and even Beth, who had flown in from Arizona. The house echoed with laughter and conversation, the atmosphere so different from the quiet holidays I had endured alone after Robert died. While the others watched football in the living room after dinner, Amanda helped me with the dishes, the 2 of us falling into an easy rhythm of washing and drying. "Tyler and I have been talking," she said carefully, placing a dried plate in the cabinet. "We're thinking of moving." Oh, I tried to keep the disappointment from my voice. "Somewhere far?" "Actually, no," Amanda said. "There's a house for sale on Maple Street, about 4 blocks from you." I nearly dropped the casserole dish I was washing. 4 blocks. Amanda smiled. "The kids miss you between visits. And honestly, I do too. We thought it might be nice to be closer. If that wouldn't be too much for you." "Too much," I repeated, joy bubbling up. "Amanda, it would be wonderful." And she continued, her voice casual. Though her eyes were watching my reaction carefully, we were thinking Christmas might be special this year. If you and William wanted to make an announcement. I felt my cheeks warm. "What kind of announcement?" Amanda rolled her eyes, looking very much like the teenager she once was. "Mom, William has been carrying a small jewelry box in his pocket for the last 3 family dinners. He keeps touching his jacket to make sure it's still there. And he's asked both Tyler and me for private conversations recently." He has. This was news to me, though. William had been acting slightly nervous lately. So Amanda continued, "I just wanted you to know that if there was an announcement at Christmas, we would all be very happy about it." I hugged her then dish towel, and all marveling at how completely our relationship had transformed in just 6 months. Later that evening, after everyone had gone home and William and I sat on the porch swing, watching the stars appear one by one, I thought about the journey that had brought us to this moment. "Penny, for your thoughts?" William said, his arm warm around my shoulders. "I was just thinking about how things change," I said. "A year ago I was dreading Amanda's wedding, afraid of being an embarrassment to my own daughter. Now here we are planning Christmas together, and she's moving closer to us." "Life has a way of coming full circle," William agreed, Sometimes the darkest moments come just before the dawn. I leaned my head against his shoulder, content, in a way I hadn't been for many years. When Amanda told me not to dress up too much for the wedding, that it would embarrass them, I felt so small, so diminished. But looking back, I'm almost grateful. Grateful. William sounded surprised. If she hadn't invited me to the wedding, if Kevin hadn't been there, if you hadn't recognized him, we might still be estranged. The truth might never have come out. William was quiet for a moment, considering this. Sometimes we need to risk embarrassing others to remain true to ourselves. You taught me that, Shelby. Your courage in attending that wedding, in bringing me along despite Amanda's objections, in refusing to make yourself small to please others, that's the woman I fell in love with. As the stars multiplied overhead and the swing creaked gently beneath us, I reflected on the unexpected gift that had come from that painful wedding invitation. By standing my ground, by refusing to be less than who I truly was, I had not only reclaimed my relationship with my daughter, but had found love again when I least expected it. For those of you struggling with family estrangement or difficult relationships, I hope my story offers some comfort. Truth has a way of emerging even after years of being buried. Healing is possible even from the deepest wounds. And sometimes the very moment when others want us to make ourselves small is exactly when we need to stand tallest. Have you ever stood your ground when someone wanted you to dim your light? Share your experiences in the comments below. And if this story touched you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear it today. Life is too short to live it smaller than you were meant to be. Thank you for listening, and remember to always be authentically you.